what would you tell people to get them back? You know, not to be Pollyannas, but to say like, hey, like, this is a front running candidate. Like, we could absolutely win this thing.
Well, for one, I mean, the polls, the morning consult poll today has this in second place and not that far behind Biden.
Right.
So there's one aspect of it, which is just like, I don't have to spin it because it's true. We have been consistently, you know, basically in second place since Biden emerged, in first place before that. And to really think about the context of what's happening here, you know, think about where Barack Obama was a month before Iowa in 2008, you know, pulling 30 points behind Hillary Clinton. You know, this is a crowded field, and things are going to start to change dramatically over the next few months as people drop out. But, you know, I genuinely don't feel any despair at all. I joined this campaign because I feel like we're going to win. Yep. And I think that we're going to win because I am so confident about the ideology and the judgment of who is running this campaign. I mean, look, some people I think are probably thinking, I'm not going to listen to a campaign podcast because I don't want to listen to some like sycophantic drivel talking about how great Bernie Sanders is for 30 minutes.
Right.
And that's what a lot of these podcasts are. I mean, I listened to a bunch before I started this to see what the lay of the land was. And oh boy, like it's rough. But there's some rough stuff out there. But like, you know, we have a radical socialist, Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor, on this morning's episode, you know, talking about how the tradition of the Black Panther Party and the Combahee River Collective can, you know, bring us lessons about solidarity. We have very frank conversations with people, including people who don't actually support Bernie Sanders, but who support a broader left movement, and talk to them about what they think that we need to be doing. You know, like we have this podcast, frankly, maybe it's because not enough people are paying attention to it, but like we are not a podcast that you would listen to and think of as a campaign podcast. And the feedback that we've been getting back, and we just want to scroll through our iTunes reviews, which I'm really proud of, is that this is a podcast which helps me understand why I like Bernie Sanders. This is a podcast that I can share with my mother or my family or my coworkers or schoolmates who aren't already bought in and who might be turned off by an overly zealous message, but who, you know, it teaches concepts.
Yeah.
You know, I think before every week, why do I like Bernie Sanders? Why do I identify as a leftist? Yep. And then I think about broader themes, like how do I understand power to work? How do I understand movement building to work? Should we do an episode about unions? Right. Should we talk in some historical detail about what unions were able to achieve to a generation who doesn't have as much exposure to unions because they've been basically abandoned by both parties historically? And let's also talk about what happened there historically and why Bernie Sanders is so different and how he's able to be so different, because he is not captured, isn't taking the donations, and isn't buying into the corporate funding game that caused the demise of unions to begin with. You know, I'm thinking thematically so that, you know, I don't have to lead a horse to water. I'm putting you in a position, you know, to say to come to the conclusion on your own, okay, if these are ideals that I share, and this is an understanding of a world that makes sense to me, the natural conclusion is that Bernie Sanders is the best candidate in this election. And that sets you up not just to be a Bernie Sanders supporter, but in elections down the line to have substantive left politics develop that are of the kind of politics that we need if we're going to save the world from environmental disaster, if we're going to make sure we don't live in a country where in the richest country in the world, tens of thousands of people die every year just from a lack of health care. You know, if we're going to do some of these big ticket items that basically we have to do because they're an existential threat.
Free Lula.
Free Lula. We did a Lula episode thanks to you, Michael Brooks. It was one of my favorite guests so far.
But I mean,
really
honestly,
him
saying that, I keep emphasizing this to people. That is so significant. There's a courage in it. There's a vision in it. There's also an understanding of how the world works that you have not seen in modern politics, and most people would like as a foreign policy. So
Right.
Definitely listen to Hear The Bern. That's actually really important pitch. It's absolutely not it's not a like, and then someone
Propaganda.
else in Burlington loved Bernie. Like it's like an actual, I first heard it. I mean, I knew it would be good because I have total faith in you, but I didn't, I remember I texted you. I think I was on a flight somewhere and I finally had time to like load up on the first several ones. And I was like, this is an actual, it's not just that it was good, it's an actual podcast. And it is actually a door into understanding the wider context of why this campaign is happening. And that's also, I mean, that's another incredible advantage for governing. It's a media operation. So that all of a sudden it's not just like, here's an initiative we're doing on unions. Exactly. Here's a history of unions. Here's why there's things unions achieved in the 1920s or 30s, 40s that are still helping you today, even as they've been so clawed back by Republicans and obviously many Democrats. So Briahna,
and people need to know that history, and thank God Cardi B is out here helping remind us how great SDR was.
I keep telling people they don't know how lucky they are to have Bernie Sanders, Cornel West, and Cardi B. Like they don't quite get it.
It's a cool gang.
That's like they don't know how lucky they are for those three right now. Briahna Joy Gray, she is the press secretary, national press secretary for the Bernie Sanders campaign. TMBS crew for life. Bernie is gonna win. Bri, thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
Pleasure. You've just watched a Michael Brooks show video, and you can watch all of our full main live shows every Tuesday night at around 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and subscribe to get all of the clips you want. We're covering the globe. We're focusing on international relations, the intellectual dark web. We're having fun. We're doing deep dives with a lot of amazing guests. Of course, become a patron for the whole thing at patreon.com/TMBS, or subscribe to this YouTube channel and help us keep growing and get that content out there. Subscribe below.